Hello students, we're just wrapping up our second unit of information. For those of you who took the traditional test, of course, your exam scores are available immediately. For those of you who took the essay version of the exam, I should be able to have those graded for you by Wednesday. That's my goal, depending on how many students took that version of the exam. And here we are now, moving into sort of our third and final unit of information. We're going to start things off with our next topic of discussion, which is going to be specifically conservation. And conservation is kind of one of those broad topics. It actually is its own field of biology called conservation biology. But it has a lot of similarities to environmental science in the sense that it is very interdisciplinary. So we are looking at lots of different things interacting and coming together for the sort of focus on how do we best preserve and protect biodiversity, right? So conservation is one of those topics where we have lots of stakeholders involved, right? So we have the communities where the biodiversity happens to be. We have the people that are there, the political leaders who are part of that community. We also may have what we call NGOs or non-governmental organizations. Those are the folks that are specifically really focused on trying to preserve and protect biodiversity. So the World Wildlife Foundation or the Nature Conservancy, or there's a host of all of these other groups who, again, they may have local branches or even local offices in some of these parts of the world, and they're working with all of these multiple people trying to, again, not only do what's best for the biodiversity that's there, the wildlife, but also the people who live there as well, right? So this particular module is actually a little bit of an extension of something of the program that I was a part of in the spring. So with my Spring Bio 104 class, we actually did a virtual exchange with a group called EDU Africa. And EDU Africa is based in Kenya, and they have centers where you can actually come. And the idea is that students would actually go to these places and learn about a whole host of different things and have a traditional student exchange. COVID world can't do that, so what we did is we did a virtual exchange instead, and we focused on conservation of large herbivores in the Masai Mara. And the Masai Mara is a well-known sort of part of Kenya, and again it extends into other parts there of Eastern Africa as well. And what you have is you have a huge amounts of wildlife that come through. It's a big tourist destination as well. And there are sort of these novel new developments called conservancies that are grassroots efforts on trying to preserve and protect biodiversity, where we actually work with the tribes people, the local people who live here, and we try to offer them opportunities to protect their land, which thereby will then protect the wildlife that go through that land as well. So the materials that you're going to see this week for lecture in particular are things that were provided to us from some of the people that work there in Africa, and they have close associationships with this group, EDU Africa. So Dr. Kamu is going to actually introduce you to the idea of conserving biodiversity in Kenya in general. He's going to take you through historical times and sort of what the approaches to wildlife and the view of people's view of wildlife and how it's changed throughout history. And he's going to kind of talk about that first. And then in the second lecture, he's actually going to talk about some of the challenges that they're facing in Kenya. I mean, not just in Kenya, it's other parts of Africa as well, where you have different competing interests, right? You have the interests of the tourism industry, you have the interests of the native people who actually live there, and then you also have the interests of, again, these sort of NGOs, these non-governmental organizations who come in and want to try to help as well. So it's really, like I said, we're really focusing on a very specific area when we're talking about conservation here in this case, but it does extend out and apply to lots of different other models that we might see in other parts of the world. We're just looking at it through the lens this week of Kenya. So there's also a reading in here that is about the history and evolution of natural parks in Kenya. And again, we have our own national park system set up here in the United States as well, but this is the one that is actually going through and kind of talking about how Kenya has set that up. So in addition to the lecture materials this week, the lab, oops, I went back too far. The lab this week is also with this mind of looking at conservation. So your lab is going to be actually create sort of a report looking at very specific herbivores, again, in the Masai Mara ecosystem. So the big things that we're all familiar with. So giraffes and elephants and different types of gazelles. There's some other things in there, wildebeests. And I give you a list of different species that you can choose from. And I also give you some websites to go and look up. And I want to know what their conservation status is. So we have sort of local groups, government groups that track whether species are endangered, they're at risk of extinction, or whether they're threatened, they're almost at risk of extinction. And we also have global networks of this as well. And so this particular lab is going to have you look at several of these different websites in order to figure out, is this a particular species that we're concerned about? And if we are concerned about it, why? So you're doing kind of like a little, like I said, a report on these particular herbivores. Something to keep in mind, though, is I'd like this to be like a report. It doesn't have to be full, fully written out paragraphs. You can address each point by point. You don't have to turn this into a paper. That's not what I'm asking for. But I don't want a single sentence explanation on these. If you do that, you're going to lose points. And I very clearly warn you that if you do that, you're going to lose points. So for each item that I'm asking you for, with the exception of the name of the animal, you should be able to give me at least 3 to 4 sentences for every single thing that's being asked for. And that's kind of the expectation, that this will take up an entire page, if not longer. So if it's less than that and you put in less effort than that, please note that your grade will be impacted by that. And then that is sort of it. So just kind of, again, the normal week. I will have a discussion post this week. We're done with our discussion leaders. Thank you to all the discussion leaders. There were some really, really great articles that were posted, and some really good discussion went on between students about different points of view, and some of the topics that were brought up, and a lot of sharing of experiences and things that we have seen and things that we're interested in. And I just want to say that it was really enjoyable to read those posts. And I really kind of gave me a little bit better of a glimpse into understanding some of the topics that are specifically important to you all. So again, remembering that this is an online course only, I don't always get to see that. And so the discussion board is kind of my way to gauge what really gets people interested in. And there have been a lot of really great topics. So again, thank you for everyone who was a discussion leader. I really do appreciate it. For now, until the end of the semester, the discussion will be led by me, but it'll be kind of some different things that I'll do as far as the questions that I'll be posing. And we'll get more into that as the weeks go on. The only other thing that I wanted to kind of show everyone is our next and final extra credit opportunity is available. And this extra credit opportunity has to do with a lecture that's going on this coming week. So it's International Education Week. And so our Office of International Education has put on kind of a host of different events that are going on this week. And one of them, which is very relevant to us, is a discussion by a Harper alum. So someone who was here in 2019. And she now works for a wildlife group down in Florida. And she's going to do just a very short talk about how climate change in particular is impacting Southwest Florida and some of her experiences with that. So the program itself is actually, I think it's on Wednesday. Oh yeah, here it is, Wednesday, November the 17th, from 1 to 2 p.m. Here's the WebEx. It's a WebEx that you can just log into. If you're unable to make this, I will post the recording. I don't know how long it'll take to get the recording. Hopefully it'll only be about a day or two, but I'll get the recording and I'll post it here as well. So what you do is you'd watch the presentation and then you would write a little bit of a reflection paper. This isn't due until right before the end of the semester, so you have plenty of time to get this done. But this is our final extra credit opportunity. So I've offered a few different things now, a few different options. 25 points is the most you can earn in extra credit. So if you already have 15, you can do this assignment and earn 10 more, and you're at 25, but you can't earn any more than that. So I just wanted to point that out quickly, as that's something that I've mentioned, but I just wanted to kind of show you where it is. So that does it for this week. Again, we're rapidly nearing the end here. We will have next week, the week of Thanksgiving. There are no specific assignments, I don't believe, that I have on the calendar, but I do have content that you are responsible for. So the content is resource management. There's some information there, but there's no assignments, as you can see. So no check-ins, no discussion, no labs. It is information, though, that you will need to know for the last exam that we have. So I just kind of want to put that on your radar. That's it for now. If anyone has any questions at all, please let me know.